Everybody, Ryan here with Rays Lays. Today we're going to talk about some new technology changes that are going to be happening to minor league baseball this season that I don't necessarily agree with at all. And we're going to talk about Boz and Pepio to the Diamondbacks for Marte, how that kind of landscape and that kind of decisions probably changed since the Diamondbacks re-signed Merrill Kelly to a 2-year, $40 million contract this past week. So first we're going to jump into this new technology change and rule change in minor league baseball, which I think is horrible. And the reason why I think it's so bad is because Manfred and the Major League Baseball ownership and commissioners and everything, they're changing the technology rule in minor league baseball to where every single organization has to do the exact same thing. And from a perspective of parity, which I know is what they're trying to do, and make it a level playing field for everybody. It's from that aspect, sure, I can get it, but from an aspect of organizations do things differently, and for technology, the way they study their players, the way they get filmed, the way they develop players, every organization is different. And I think that's what makes baseball so great is that you have guys that were undrafted free agents after a 20-round draft, not even a 7-round draft like the NFL, that make the big leagues. You have 18th round guys that are the best pitchers on your staff, and it's because the way they get developed and the way that they can access these pitching labs. And from a Rays perspective, I think the reason why I think this is just horrible is this only hurts organizations. Unless you're the Los Angeles Dodgers, the New York Mets, the New York Yankees, the Giants. Unless you're those teams that have unlimited payrolls and your owners' pockets are infinite, for like a Tampa Bay Rays perspective, it just does nothing but hinder your ability to make players better. And I get it. Like I said, from a parity perspective, yes, sure. But especially from a Rays perspective, you're trying to do the most that you can with the amount of money that you have, and the way that you develop players, the way that you study the game, study players, study analytics, study data, do everything is, I would say, is far more exceeds any other team's ability to do that. And we've kind of seen that being as productive and as good as we have been over the last 5 to 10 years with one of the lowest payrolls in all of the game. And I think that being able to not do this anymore and kind of make each team do the same thing just completely nullifies trying to develop your players without the use of $300 million a season payroll. And I just don't think that the ownership or the commissioner group kind of understands where that's going to go. And I don't think that it's because the people that are talking about this say that they're kind of calling the policy an anti-spending measure that'll curb innovation and render some past investments useless, and kind of set the sport on a path towards more stringent limits on front office spending. Which it makes sense from an outside perspective looking in on trying to limit the teams that have a lot of money to be able to spend that money on developing players and things of that nature, but they don't do that anyways. And sure, the Dodgers, they do have prospects that they've drafted that they have made great. I would say 90% of their 40-man roster, they just bought in free agency or traded for them and gave them a bigger contract. So I don't think it's going to do what the commissioners think it's going to do. I truly don't, and I think it's only going to hurt the way that you can develop your prospects, and it's going to only hurt small market teams that use the draft, that use free agency, use the minor league process like it's going out of style to try to develop these players to make them big league guys. And I don't think that Major League Baseball truly understands what it's going to do. And don't get me wrong, they know more about the ins and outs of the operation than 99.9% of the people on the planet. I would agree with that. I just don't think that they've kind of looked at this full circle and were like, yeah, this is going to hurt anybody. It's only going to make the game better, is what I think that they think is going to happen. But from a perspective of small market teams using to develop and things of that nature, it's going to do nothing but hurt. And I guess I'm curious to see kind of how it does. It's so I'm just going to read some snippets of this for you. So this is a quote from a MLB spokesperson. We are taking this step to ensure that all 30 clubs are working with the same set of information as they make baseball operations decisions. Each club can use the information however they see fit, but it's important that we provide a level playing field on access to information. The league will now approve in-game data and technology vendors, a change that for many teams could mean access to new information at the minor league level, but for clubs that have already made significant investments in technology they've come to rely on, like the Rays, the rule change could result in the removal of that same technology from their stadiums if it is not approved by the league. It just doesn't make any sense. Why are you trying to hurt teams that invest into baseball analytics? That's all you're doing, and you're just trying to make it even. You're not doing that. You're hurting the teams that. The only reason why baseball is necessarily, we haven't necessarily seen this the past couple of years. I mean, the Dodgers won in the World Series 2 years in a row by just spending more money than everybody else. The reason why you see teams that kind of they're competitive, and it's because they invest so much in analytics and they use the analytical route, like Tampa Bay, who has continuously used it to make decisions, whether the decisions are agreed on or not agreed on. Statistically wise, the decisions that we make are supposed to work. And obviously, like you see on football games where it says 4th and 3, punt, go, and it says go. Statistically, or like when you're down 8 points, you're supposed to statistically go for 2 because you have a higher statistic chance of getting one of the 2-point conversions than you do the not getting either of them. So statistics are just a thing to pretty much just guide you into saying, statistically wise, if you do this 100 times, it's going to happen more than it's not. That's what the Rays' entire organization and entire strategy is. And taking that away and taking all that information away, that if it doesn't get approved, is just going to do nothing but make those teams worse. And it's the only thing it's going to do is make the Dodgers, make the Yankees, make the Red Sox, make the Giants, make the Mets better. That's all it's going to do. It's going to even the playing field from a development standpoint to where they can't develop players as they want. And it's just going to make the teams that just spend the money anyways better. That's what it's going to do. So I'm not gonna keep going because I could probably talk about this for hours. But I'll kind of just transition over to, with Merrill Kelly being re-signed by the Diamondbacks, kind of a trade for Boz and Pepio, which was really talked about this past couple of days for Ketel Marte, is a little less likely in my opinion, just solely based because the Diamondbacks are looking for starting pitching, and they've kind of got a guy in Merrill Kelly who's been really good, and spending $10 million a year, or $20 million a year rather, on him is going to kind of hinder their kind of trade market value. Or I could see it as they just spent $40 million on him, $20 million a year. They're willing to kind of offload Marte's contract to kind of offset that. And Boz and Pepio are on really, really club-friendly contracts still. So that could make sense in that aspect of things. But I truly don't think that it's going to be just them two for Marte. I think that them kind of getting a pitcher and kind of getting their guy back in that rotation is going to make it a little interesting. And I think that a Boz or a Pepio with a Lau could get it done. And I've kind of seen a lot of things on Trey Morgan as well, but that Trey Morgan's a guy that I do not want to touch in our farm system. I think he's going to be a fantastic big league player. He's got 70 grade glove. He was the best first baseman in all of college baseball. I don't understand why necessarily you kind of have him playing first base with how athletic he is. He's probably the most athletic first baseman in all of minor league baseball. And I know he was in all of college baseball the year that they won the Natty. And I mean, that play he made against Wake Forest in the semifinal game was unbelievable. So it's one of those things where it's like you don't see people with that kind of plus defense, especially at his size. He's not that big playing first base, but his ability to pick the ball at first, his range, his mobility, it's better than arguably any first baseman I've seen in a while, just strictly from a defensive standpoint. And then from a bat, he's got a fantastic bat. He hits for power. He's fast. He does everything that a traditional first baseman does, but he plays like he is a center fielder. He's fast. He hits for power. He hits for average. He can steal bases. He can play plus defense. And that's it. Like, I understand from an organizational perspective that you could trade him for a lot. And I think he's going to be the first name brought up in any prospect pool that people are going to ask for. And I think from that perspective, if it gets a Ketel Marte deal done, especially with Marte having 4 more years of control under his contract, I would be a little more okay with that. But I really don't want to lose him, and I understand that there's really not a spot for him in our infield right now, unless you trade Brandon Lau and you kind of want to move him over to second base and see how he plays. But I don't understand, like, or moving Aranda rather to second base and putting Morgan at first. So it's intriguing to kind of see what they do with that. And I think that a Marte trade is getting less and less likely every single day after winter meetings. I do think that the ideal scenario and ideal situation for getting that trade done was going to be during winter meetings. So we'll kind of see where that goes. But I do truly think that Boz and Pepio for Marte is kind of completely off the table now that Merrill Kelly is a Diamondback. So you guys let me know what you guys think, and especially let me know what you guys think about the whole technology deal in minor league baseball. I think it's just doing nothing but going to hurt the game. So you guys have a great one. Please let me know what you guys think. Have a great rest of your day, and have a great week.